Welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest, and on this episode, it's not clickbait. I'm going to be rebuilding my wife's car again. Let me tell you what happened, and in this episode, I'm going to be taking out the transmission. My goal is to have it out in 2 hours. I think for sure I can do it in 3, which is fast. But if I can do it in 2, then I'll buy myself some ice cream tonight. No, I'll buy myself something extra for my ice cream. No, I'll buy myself ice cream either way, but if I can do it in 2 hours, then I'll give myself an extra reward. Let me know in the comments what you think that should be. I'll let you know by the end of the video if I figure one out. Well, I'm exhausted. I'm tired of dealing with this car, the people I had to deal with the transmission that's in there now, the first one I bought. Well, stay tuned to the end of the video for another update on that transmission, the people I'm dealing with. I tried to return that transmission today, and there's even more headaches. Which wasn't even one of the cheapest options, so I thought it would be safe. And why am I so tired, you're asking, man? I just got back from the desert. I've been camping in the desert for the past 3 days, playing a disc golf tournament. I almost finished top 10, so it was pretty good. Well, I've got this Anker SOLIX C1000 watt power station. You can see it's covered in red dust from this weekend. It's not even fully charged because I've been using it for the past 3 days. I'm gonna need a power station today. Anker sent this to me last week, so I'm going to be using this one today. I'll talk about it while I'm using it. And let's talk about the first transmission, what all happened with that real quick, and let's get out there and get this going. You might notice I've been using my fentanyl gloves in the past few videos. Somehow, like 2 weeks ago, I had two decent pair of leather gloves I've been using. One that was like my main pair and a backup pair. Well, like 3 weeks ago, I lost my good pair. I don't know where I left them. It must be under the hood of somebody's car. And I was using my replacement pair the other week, and I lost those too. So I've got to order some new gloves. It was about time though. They had holes in the fingertips. I had just been putting off buying a new pair. Thing is, a box of these gloves costs 20, 30 bucks, depending on where you buy them. They used to be 40. And a nice pair of leather gloves cost 20 bucks. These last me a couple weeks, and a pair of leather gloves last me a couple months, 3-4 months. So I like leather gloves. And I'm just wearing my fentanyl gloves today anyways. Let's go ahead and yoink this transmission out. Let me tell you what happened. Okay, now before I unhook the battery, so you know I'm not BSing anybody, let me show you the codes. Ain't no scenario in my mind where it makes sense to pull out a transmission for fun. I'm not doing this for views. There's the original transmission there that had like 300,000 miles. I knew I was gonna have to replace one day if we kept this thing on the road. And there's the transmission that was supposed to replace it. See how shiny that is? You can check the video. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, when I first got the car running, it did shift kind of hard, and I was like, whatever. I don't care as long as it shifts. Hard shifts aren't that big of a deal. I could put some Lucas in it later. I was just hoping it was a nice low mileage transmission. Then it sounded like the torque converter slipped the next day, and that was kind of weird. And then we drove on the interstate and we had a code pop up, which is a torque converter code that locks up at high speed. So basically the clutches and the torque converter inside the transmission are no good. That code comes on, when that code comes on, the transmission usually fails within a year. That code being on is justification enough to send it back, but it's slipping and shifting hard. So that with the code, I'm sending this thing straight back to the idiots I bought it from. Let me tell you, they were a headache to deal with. I'm not gonna give them a shout out here, but I'll just leave a review that reflects my experience on eBay, because that's where I bought it from. Just with the personal account I bought it with. But man, these people were a headache to deal with customer service wise. They couldn't, when they sent the transmission in the first place, they sent it with the wrong information. We triple checked that they were supposed to send it with the right information the first time, and they tried blaming me for that. Then I told them I only wanted to communicate in writing so that I could have messages of everything that we've been communicating. I don't want them to tell me one thing and do another and then be like, no, we never said that. And man, they would not stop calling me. They called me like 15 times in a row, and I'm like, stop calling me. I wasn't answering. but they're just trying to call me to get me to make some sort of deal with them. They wanted to send me another transmission. I don't trust their transmissions, but I told them, hey, maybe if you give me a discount, then I'll take a transmission from you. Like if you give me half off and exchange it with a new replacement, then I'll stick with you guys. But I'm not taking that risk of installing another transmission from your company and I still paying full price from the get-go. And they're acting like the replacement they're giving me is free and that's some sort of deal. Like, no, we'll do it all for free. And I'm like trying to clarify, what do you mean by free? Are you gonna refund me and replace the transmission? And then they get all mad. So they're obviously just not a very good, so they're obviously just trying to pressure people in that business. Well, I told them I'm not interested. I stopped communicating with them and I just filed a return through eBay, which I think at this point is the most reasonable thing to do, and just leave them a review so other people know what to expect when they deal with them. If you know what to expect, that's fine. But I think that's unacceptable even if you're trying to set some sort of expectation. Anyways, I ordered it from another business that communicated a lot better, and I told them that I would just go pick it up at the terminal in Salt Lake City. It got in last week, but again, I went on my camping trip this weekend. I didn't have time to get that before then. And so my plan is to take the transmission out today. If I get it done early enough, which it's already the early afternoon, I don't think I'll have time today. So I'll probably go get the new transmission tomorrow and drop off this POS transmission at the post office tomorrow. So I'll just do transmission errands tomorrow, and then the next day, so it'll be a total of like 3 days probably, I'll install the transmission. Hopefully the new one doesn't have any issues, but we'll find out. Can't believe I'm making this video. Let's see how fast I can take this transmission out. And once this health report's done, I'll show you the codes. Okay, my health report is still running. If you've noticed in a lot of my videos, I've had like a cord dangling near the camera in my time lapses. I need to get some new GoPros. All my batteries have been dying super fast and they don't make good old batteries anymore. I need to just get a new GoPro. So I'm gonna be using the Anker SOLIX to power my GoPro on the time lapse today. Like I said, I've been using power stations for all my time lapses. My GoPro batteries are lasting like for 5 to 8 minutes worth of footage, and that's good enough for an intro basically. Sometimes they swell up and get stuck in the cameras anyway, so just plugging them in for right now is being a good solution. But again, I'm gonna upgrade my cameras and microphone like I did a couple of years ago, probably shortly. Well, this thing's pretty cool. It's got a 12-volt car socket, which came in useful on the trip. I should have brought an electric blanket. I thought I would be warm enough with two, with a sleeping bag and an underquilt. No, sir. You can actually hook these power stations together. You can get multiple and make like a 2,000 watt power bank. So that's a great solution right there. And I love how many power outlets this power bank has. A lot of power stations have like 2 or 4. This one has 6. That's about the most I've seen on a nice power station. And this battery, and all my buddies I was camping with wanted me to say that this light came in super handy. They said that was their favorite part. We used that light when we were cooking all night long. We got done with our second round the first day as it was getting dark. So by the time we turned everything in and walked like half a mile back to camp, it was dark. That light, I brought some other lights with me, but that light lit up our whole table while we were cooking. And for the first time, I had a bunch of other people testing that because everybody was charging their phones and stuff with this power station. And they all said it worked great, that they were super impressed. Anyways, we'll talk about that some more later. Well, if we need some power later in the video, I'll show you what that's capable of. Let's see if this thing's done scanning yet. Perfect. Oh, wait. Okay, so if we look at the engine system, we've got all automatic transmission, system malfunction. That's the one code we have for the check engine light. So if we go back to the transmission module, torque converter, clutch system failure, piece of crap transmission. That's as clear as it gets. Transmission code. The thing isn't going away. And neither am I, because I've got to replace this transmission. Let's get to it. Unplug the battery first. There you go. I've already got to charge one of these. We'll plug that up in a second. Like I said, we were charging phones on that power station all weekend and it's still at 83%. I brought some solar panels because I thought maybe we'd need them. I thought my buddy had a Blackstone and I thought it was going to be electric, but it was gas. So we didn't need as much power as I thought. We were all just charging our personal electronics, but we're out so far in the middle of nowhere. We had to hike up to the main house down the road that had Starlink and connect to their Wi-Fi just to send text messages. So we didn't need to charge too much. Oh, we did play Smash Bros in the middle of the night. We brought a Switch. That was pretty fun, and that was totally powered by this. Let me show you some footage of that. So yeah, you could use that thing. You could totally use that for emergencies only, but it turns camping into glamping, or just makes a day out at work a lot less stressful whenever you can charge your stuff. Especially for, I've always said this, for mobile mechanics, mobile workers, having a power station I think is like crucial. I think it's also great for campers, van lifers. A lot of people who were camping out there who had their own setups and stuff were asking me about my power stations, and we were comparing different power options for when you're camping, and they were impressed with that model. So the Anker SOLIX definitely got a bunch of attention and everybody liked it. In fact, Anker was the first brand of power stations that I bought personally. I said they sent this one to me, but before I ever had any sort of power station, jump start, or anything sent to me, I bought my own battery pack and solar panel, and it was Anker brand. So if that says anything, that was the brand I chose first. Now, I'm sure these models are outdated. This one was just to charge electronics when I went camping, but this was my first backpacking setup to recharge my phones when I was off grid out here in Utah. And again, I bought these myself years ago, and it's the same brand. These are probably outdated models, but Anker has tons of different power options, not just battery packs. One of my last but not least favorite things about this battery pack is the other USB-C charging and USB charging options that it has on the front. You can see how dusty this thing got from my trip. I'm not even worried about cleaning it up. It's made from high quality materials and it's water resistant. Okay. Let's get a few things set down here. This table's not too big. Stable table. Okay, all these parts I'm just gonna put in the car. I guess every time I'm gonna bust into here, there's a few things I'm gonna notice I need to replace. Air filter this time, probably this intake tube. Last time was the transmission mount, and that cooling hose I busted and kind of DIY repaired, but I need to replace the hose because I just cut an inch off the end, so I'll do that now. And like with a 1,000-watt power bank, you could expect to recharge things and run things off of this for a whole day easily. If you were running like a power tool or something like a saw, then I would expect a couple of hours worth of work out of it. Probably 2 to 3. Okay, so I've got that turned on. I'm gonna charge my Milwaukee battery before I dig too far into it. And I'm gonna go ahead and get all my tools set up. So I'm not gonna include setup time in the amount of time it takes me to remove the transmission. Because think about it, once I have my own shop, which is life goals, I'll do that sometime in the future, try and buy a shop with a lift. And then I'll have a tool set up that's just like every other mechanic, ready to go at all times next to whenever somebody pulls their car in or I pull somebody's car in. It's just so much more of a hassle having to unload, load up, and I'm working out of buckets, man, in a nice truck setup that I could take out anytime I need for an emergency call out. But for jobs where people's cars are already driving, they can just come and drop them off at the shop, no problem. And then when it's not running and I need to go replace a starter or something, I could take the mobile shop with me. Well, we're getting the mobile shop running first, but before that, we gotta take this transmission down. I'm just talking about that. It's exciting though. The plans are finally getting finalized on that. And I'm not worried about this powering everything I need today. Now, when it comes to a power station of this size, I would expect this to power my whole day probably my whole week before I needed to recharge it. My whole day if I was recharging all of the tools that I need. So I think this is great for people who work and do mobile stuff, or for campers, van lifers. Okay, well, I brought this over here. I'm gonna put the time lapse up here and show you a good view down of removing this transmission. And I'll stop you whenever anything interesting happens and let you know how long everything's taking. My plan is to remove everything up here in about 30-40 minutes. That's easy to remove. Then I'll get underneath there and remove everything that's in the way. So I'll jack it up before that. This time I'm gonna try removing the ball joints. This time I'm gonna try removing the axles by dislocating the lower ball joint instead of the tie rod and the upper control arm. Other than that, everything's gonna be the same. I really didn't think I was gonna have to do this again. Okay, so here's the overhead view. I've only gotten the air cleaner box out of the way. Let's start this time lapse. All right, so here's an overhead look. I'm gonna get my organizer mat out, but I pretty much know where everything's gonna go. You can see that cracked hose there. I had to hold it up for a second to get a good view, but it's cracked on the top and the bottom, so that's just something I'm gonna plan on replacing as well. And I'm gonna get the distributor out of the way here and just start getting everything out of the way. I think I'm probably putting a drain pan under the transmission at this point, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But right now I'm not worried about anything underneath there other than that, so it can be draining while I'm working on everything up here. And like last time, I'm going to get everything loose, at least just loose first, so when I come back I don't have anything that's stuck and that I have to fight with. But I'll leave everything pretty much tight. That's connecting the motor, the transmission to the motor and the transmission to the frame until I get a jack underneath there. My floor jack's messed up, so I'm gonna need a new one of those. And don't forget, I had a huge issue today trying to return that other transmission, so I'll talk about that at the end of the video. But anyways, that hose that I cut last time, I got moved out of the way. There wasn't much coolant in there, and I'm gonna plan on replacing that. Pretty much anything I see this time, I'm planning on placing an order today, so by the time I do it tomorrow, I'll have all the parts I need. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes. I flew through that. You can tell because it started draining the coolant first, and it's still draining. And I've got everything loose. Some things I still have to completely disconnect, but everything's broken free, which is kind of what I did last time. So now I'm gonna jack it up. Again, go after the lower ball joint. Some people recommended that in the comments. Just one step to get the axle out instead of two. And then we gotta do all the fun stuff under here, like usual. All right, let's get to it. All right, let's time lapse it up. It was pretty warm yesterday, so I went ahead and pulled out a fan and threw it out on me while I was laying on the ground here. I didn't want to get too hot, and I was kind of working at a nice, gentle pace, not trying to overwork it. Get the side-on jack stands over here, and I'm gonna do this passenger side first. When I was doing the driver side, it wanted to pick the jack stands up on the passenger side a little bit, so I had to readjust, and I've got both of those on the concrete nice and flat now. So obviously you can see I'm taking this tire off. We'll get that set underneath there for extra protection, and I'm going to give it a good look around. Again, everybody recommended that I go after the lower ball joint control arm junction in order to get that axle out. It will be an easier single step. I found out it's not really that much easier in my case, probably in most cases. But we'll go ahead and just attack it the best we can. Since I'm doing that, I've already committed to it. Okay, I just had a little lunch break and I came back to do the lower ball joint. And I smacked on that for like 5-10 minutes. And I couldn't smack it hard enough. And I actually smacked the stud itself and bent some threads. So now I'm going to replace the lower ball joint as part of this job. And I'll probably do the same on the other side. Once I have it all open, which I'm about to do here in just a second. I've got the axle nut sockets. Then it's not going to be that big of a deal to replace the ball joint because it's accessible. I'm just going to have to do it now. Something else. opened this a bunch of times. That should go out. Like that. Let's go ahead and drain the transmission. I've got some pig mat, but looks like 4 to 6 ounces worth of coolant hit the ground, not much, so shouldn't be hard to clean up. Ouch. All right. Yeah, I actually want to see. I was just gonna use my impact, but I want to see if this drain bolt is as tight as the last one. The last one was jammed on there. Yeah, that must be factory. And I'm just looking for chunks. When I got it, I was suspicious of water damage from all the gunky, rusty junk that was on the torque converter. So maybe there's some water in it, we'll see. That ain't coming off like that. Big guy. Well, that doesn't look good. Doesn't look terrible, but it does not look good. I'm not sure. I haven't really seen this purpley color before. Is that water? Let me know in the comments what that means. I just think that looks like some old burnt fluid. Hasn't quite gotten black, but I've never seen it quite purple like that. Okay, so now that I've done this 2 weeks apart, I knew pretty much exactly what I needed to take underneath the car with me in order to not have to get up. I did forget the 19mm socket because there's 2 transmission bolts that are 19mm, so don't do that again next time if for some reason I have to, please no. But anyways, undoing the torque converter is always a fun part, but last time I was clutch dropping my Milwaukee on those bolts, I thought for sure I wouldn't have to do it again, so I'm pretty worried for them again this time. I might just get some new ones. Okay, well here we go. It actually has been a little under 2 hours, and I think that is the last bolt holding the transmission in. I ran into a couple of issues. I tried refilling the oil in my transmission jack, but it still wouldn't go up higher than this. If you can see the transmission there, it normally doesn't hang below the car, so that was as high as the jack would go, and I just dropped it off this mount hoping that it wouldn't damage the motor mounts, because I really didn't want to go get a new transmission jack today. So I took a risk dropping it that much, and it landed on the transmission jack. Probably didn't bend a mount or anything, but that was pretty dumb. Like I said, I just didn't want to run up to Harbor Freight today. So I'll do that before I get the new transmission. I'll do that tomorrow when I'm doing my errands and transmission stuff. I'll just get a new transmission jack. One of my buddies is the manager at Harbor Freight, so if anything like that ever has some sort of warranty that can be applied, I'll usually get it. But no big deal if not. I'll just buy another one. Those are the cheap jacks there. So let's see. I'm gonna yoink that bolt out, and then it should come off the pins, so I'll be careful to pry it off with a pry bar, and it'll probably drop a little bit more, just evening its weight out, and then I'll let this jack down and pull it out, and then I'll be done for today. Like I said, I won't be able to put it back in with that jack though. Oh, I always forget about this bolt down there. There's one more that you have to get to from the front. Let me do that and then it'll slide out. Okay, I just got that bolt off. Let's see if I can twist it like this. There it goes. Hopefully that motor didn't land on anything other than the motor mount. Okay, took an extra bolt off the motor mount that I didn't need to right there. So now the motor's leaning. I'll probably just put that back in real quick with the jack, but it's not sitting on the transmission or anything. So I'm gonna pull the transmission out first. Okay, 2 hours. I did it. I'll probably just take my kids to McDonald's or something, get them a Happy Meal. Let me clean that up. Well, that's satisfying. I was theorizing I could do it in less than 2 hours, so I'm glad I did. Was I a little too quick? Probably should have gotten a jack. Probably should have paid more attention to that motor mount not being in right now, but I didn't break anything. That's the most important thing. It's my car, so I didn't mind rushing, and I did it in under 2 hours. Well, now I've got to return this. I'll have a busy day tomorrow, and then you'll see the installation video next. So if you like this video, you have to make sure you're subscribed and leave it a thumbs up. If you want to help me take my kids to McDonald's tonight, you can donate. The links in the description down below. And thanks to Anker for sending me this power station. It was a great use on this trip, and I'll be using it in the future. If you want a power station like this, make sure you check out the links in the description and the pinned comment for an extra special deal. Well, I told you by the end of the video I'd have an update on that transmission. These guys are idiots, dude. I went to return that transmission today, and when I filed the return through eBay, like I said, they were trying to like do a bunch of weird negotiations, just trying to get me another transmission, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with all that. Besides, they were being really pushy, so I was like, I'm done even trying to give them a chance. Well, I said, let me go ahead and just return these through eBay, and I'll just do it the right way so I can't get bamboozled or anything. Well, I started the return through eBay. They probably took offense to that because they sent me a message saying just deal with it through eBay then, and I got a QR code to send it back through the USPS post office, and I was like, the post office? I'm like, that's pretty weird. That's why I said post office earlier in the video. So I went over there this morning with the transmission on a pallet, and I was like, yo, this thing's 200 pounds on a pallet in the back of my truck. I'm like, do you guys even pick that stuff up? And they were like, no way. And so I was like, all right, well, whatever. I thought maybe it was eBay for a minute, and I was stressing for about an hour until I could finally talk to somebody from eBay on the phone, because it was the chat bot for like 30 minutes, a bunch of different websites trying to problem solve, but it's a pretty unusual problem that I needed to talk to somebody to resolve, because eBay chatbot wasn't just going to send me another shipping label. Well, I finally got a hold of a customer service representative, and it turns out that this dumb company is the one that's responsible for sending the shipping label in the first place. So they have 5 days to, they're in some trouble right now. I forget what they called it, like got some sort of like hold put on the account, and they had to take some action. eBay had to take some action against them, and they have 5 days to resolve it, or it just gets resolved in my favor, so I'll get the refund and I won't have to send the transmission back. So at least in 5 days, that's the best of my worries, and the worst of my worries is I'll have a different shipping label I'll have to take or drop off or have picked up by somebody else. Anyways, they were trying to do another one on me. Luckily, I didn't wait till the last day to do that. I still had 3 days to get that returned, because if this would have been the last possible moment to return it, I'd have shot myself in the foot. Well, in reality, they were trying to get one better on me, so pretty upset about that. But again, I'm just going to leave them a negative review. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and check out the next episode right up here. I'll see you there. That's a job well done.